Minglava. You are listening to Myanmar first feminist podcast G-Taw Zagar Wyne, brought to you by Purple Feminist Group. In this podcast, you'll be hearing inspiring stories of Myanmar women and girls who are bringing social, economics, and political changes around the world. This is your host Nandar. Welcome to G-Taw Zagar Wyne. Today with us we have Nurhayati Ali, aka Phoo Pwint Wai. She's a Rohingya feminist activist and aspiring dentist. Nur, welcome to G-Taw Zagar Wyne. Let's start with what shaped Nurhayati Ali.
What shaped me? That's a very loaded question because there's a lot of things that shaped me. But I would say first and foremost, definitely my Rohingya identity and my parents being genocide survivors and as refugees who resettled here in the US. That's definitely shaped me and my life and my upbringing. Just living under those conditions and seeing the effects of genocide and how much trauma it has and how much trauma and how much damage it has done to our people. And we once had something very beautiful. We once had a very beautiful homeland. We had, our villages, our historical infrastructure. And now today, none of that exists. Almost, we've lost a lot of our historical sites and, a lot of our homes. So I'd say definitely, that has shaped me a lot in how I see the world, how I approach certain things. And actually now, even as, an advocate, a lot of that advocacy I find doing I find myself doing in real life. Even when I work, when people ask me, oh, where are you from? I'm like, oh, guess where I'm from? It just kind of gets them thinking like, oh, where is she from? And then it's like first thing I get is like India or Bangladesh, or I've gotten even like Egyptian before because of the way I wear my
Whoa,
hijab.
interesting.
And Burma is usually not the first, or Rohingya is usually not the first thing that they think about. So it just really tells you how much is unknown about our people, and that there needs to be more awareness about what's happening to my people. But it also just tells us that, oh, like, at the end of the day, like, we all look the same in some way, somehow, right? Like even when
Mm.
we go to like Indonesia and Malaysia, they think we're Indonesian or Malaysian. And I'm pretty sure if I went to India, Pakistan, they would think the same thing, like I look Indian or I'm Pakistani, So it's really like, how you look doesn't define you and shouldn't define you, right? That's also something to definitely think about. Um, I'd say, yeah, that experience shapes my life in even my career aspirations and goals, because education is something that has been robbed of my community, and there's so many barriers on getting access. So if you meet a Rohingya and you ask for what they want, you'll see that the most thing is going to be education, especially the kids. What they want for their children is education, education, education. So then, like I feel like that's also shaped my life too, where I want to reach the highest that I can and achieve the most that I can education wise, because in this world, people will not give you attention or credibility if you don't have any education, unfortunately. They're going to be like, oh, this person is not educated, they don't have um they don't have a degree, or they don't have this. What do they know? What
And they
are
don't
they
have
talking about?
credibility. Mm.
Exactly, they're not given credibility in this world. So as much as we want to say numbers don't matter, they to some degree they do.
They do.
But what we can do is, we get those numbers and then use it to, do what we want to do, um, and help our people however much we can, and really become experts in all fields, right? It doesn't have to just be doctor, engineer, lawyer, right? To just go throughout all fields, literature, arts, um, like even those fields, we have to be professional in all, because you know at the end of the day, like if we want to rebuild our country, if we want to rebuild our land, it comes from all angles, right? A doctor's not gonna know how to rebuild this one road or like houses, right? You would need like an engineer for that. Um, so just in terms of that too, that would be like the main things that really shaped my life up until this point.
I love your strong feelings towards education because when I was younger, my mother used to say that because we were so poor and there were no escape from it, like we didn't have any inheritages or rich people who can help us to get out of it. So my mother would always tell me that education is the only escape from poverty. And for a long time, I did believe her very strongly because, especially as women, I think that has become the only tool to get out of the patriarchal ruling. And I work
Exactly.
so hard, Noor. Like, I remember when I was younger, like, now that I'm in therapy, I keep asking, why the hell did I study so hard? Like, nobody forced me to study hard. Like, my parents were very chill. Like, none of my relatives also cared about being an excellent student or forced me to be. But I did care so much because of that one message from my mother that
Mm,
I thought this is the only ticket for me to get out of this poverty or this limitation of being a woman that comes
yeah.
in this society. We're living in this that comes with living in this society. So I did also for a long time have a strong feeling with education, but it did affect me gradually differently because of the education system in Myanmar, and I stopped having hopes that education will get me out of poverty because there were a lot of people in my village who would go study and graduate from university, have degrees. Even some doctors, to be honest, would come back in the village and continue doing their family business, running a beetle shop or running a grocery shop. And I found that not very impactful or significantly
Mm,
inspiring. Like, let's just put it that way. And I think being the ethnic group that we are, I love that you bring out about looking international. I like to say that we have an international face. We can
exactly.
be part of any group. What is the word when we can easily blend in a way?
Uh, I'm forgetting the word right now, but at least in America, we're known as being a melting pot, because it's like all the cultures and all the people, like once we're in, like in a pot, like we blend in together, like we mix in together, uh people here, it's not just like, of a certain like ethnicity or race. We're multiple, we're international here, so
Exactly.
maybe like kind of like the same idea.
Yeah, something like that. So I used to be really annoyed when I was growing up in Myanmar that people would always say that I don't look Burmese enough, I don't look Nepali enough. And then that has greatly annoyed me and just reminded me in general that I look different. So it's not easy for me to be, quiet and hiding. But then as I grow older, I came to appreciate and embrace that part of looking different. It's kind of a bonus, to be honest, to look like
Yeah.
everyone in a way. Like you did say about Rohingya genocide, and I think a lot of people who are listening, I want you to educate them on that as an opening. Let's put it simply by explaining what genocide mean. And I want to also take this moment to admit that as someone who was born and raised in Myanmar, I did not even know Rohingya people existed in Myanmar until 2017 conflict started viraling on social media. That's when I realized there's an ethnic group that exists in Myanmar that has been an ongoing battle, or sufferings for too long by the military and Myanmar people in general, for not acknowledging their existence. I did have a lot of Muslim friends, but I just address them from the religious perspective. I didn't really associate them with a ethnic group, and I am guilty of it. And I think this, I am a case study of military succeeding in eradicating Rohingya peoples from the history of Myanmar, from the present of Myanmar. And I think people need to understand the depth of the damage that it has been done, and the depth it is still in an ongoing situation is really dangerous. So I want you to take this opportunity to educate people like me back in 2017, please.
So genocide in itself, the term, it means like the deliberate or the systematic destruction of a people. It can be a national, an ethnic, a racial, or religious group. And at least by the UN, there are two main elements for that's included in genocide. One of them is the intent to destroy a targeted group, and then the second one is the physical act of actually, um, like like killing, physically killing, or causing any bodily or mental harm. So the physical aspect. And I would say that even though the Rohingya genocide was recognized by the UN as an actual genocide in 2017, 2018, around that time, the genocide has actually been happening years way before. Um, a lot of people pinpoint it to like beginning in 1982 because of the 1982 citizenship law, but not officially. The genocide has been starting since the 1960s, the 1970s, um, after World War II. After the events of World War II, Rohingya people were targeted because there were just different politics and sentiments over like who's supporting who during World War II. So then after that, the entire country kind of turned its backs on Rohingya, and Rohingya became targeted. So starting from there, Rohingya became, just a group Rohingya people had to go under a lot of, like discrimination. That's when also their life started to be controlled by the government, where, they dictated how many children that they could have. They dictated marriage rules, like Rohingya people couldn't marry outside of their ethnicity. And if you wanted to get married like outside of your ethnicity, you had to get approval from them. You couldn't have more than two children. If you wanted to have more than two children, you had to get approval from them. And then, Rohingya people were used as slave workers, laborers. and even just as like scapegoats for crimes. Um, and then in 1982 was when the government actually officially by law didn't include Rohingya people um, as one of the recognized ethnic groups among the group of 135. So it's like, even that kind of it's a systematic erasure, systematic isolation. And what you mentioned that you didn't even hear about Rohingya people until you were older, that shows how the military succeeded in erasing Rohingya culture and Rohingya history completely from the books. Because if you look back to um, historical times, there's actually he's a British explorer and British doctor. You might know him, Sir Francis Buchanan. He actually, during the 1700s, he went to that Arakan State area to just do some research and go see, like, who's there. And he has mentioned that when he was there, there are a group of people that call them that are he called them Mohammedans, but he mentioned that, oh, there's a group of people there that call themselves Rohingya, and they're Muslims. So from 1799, you have that piece of document. That's the only piece of documentation that that exists about like Rohingya people that actually like recognizes our indigeneity. And that document itself, it's not even in Burma. It's in like one of the British museums. So that really shows you like how they've worked to, like eradicate Rohingya people and to really alienate us from the country, and really label us as foreigners. And even the national registration cards, um, they used, you know, they used to give out the like citizen national the citizen NRCs, but after when they started isolating the Rohingya people, they started giving them the um, foreigner ones. And so whoever is born there, um, even if they're given some kind of document, it's a foreigner document, that they're not recognized as people of the country. So um, I would say 2012 is when it started to get really like large scale and massive, with the burning of the villages by the Buddhists, um and it just still worked its way up until 2017. And I think that's when it became more known around the world because of how large scale it had become, and because of how many Rohingya people had fled to nearby Bangladesh, and, like the establishment of the refugee camp there. That's when it, I think, got into like the international lens and global news. And I would say after 2017, um, like over the years, it kind of, like got swept under the rug or something, because it's still ongoing. And we have like there's so many other genocides happening in the world. So it's like, people are like, it's hard to give attention to everything. But the Rohingya genocide has just been swept under the rug. So that's why we're working on advocating and also just spreading awareness about the genocide itself, its origins, and um, its impacts that it's having today. I hope that was like that gave some insight.
No, it did. It did give, it explained why this genocide has quietly existed in Myanmar, but then got sort of like an attention. It's just like most of the Myanmar history that I learned, it came outside of the country because inside the propaganda has been so strong enough for us to not even think about that. Can you believe
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, exactly. It's very censored in a way. It's a lot of censorship. And I think especially now with, with the coup and after the coup happened, I'm sure there's a censorship of a lot of things. Um, and even I even heard news that, they're trying to have monopolies of different types of services, the one about the EV cars, and then now about the telecom service or something like that. They're trying to have a monopoly over that. So it's like, it's like they want to control those like basic aspects of life, like such as communication, to feed those things, to feed what to feed what they want you to hear, what they want you to know about. Um, so I think now it's even much worse.
Increasingly, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And for those who are listening and don't know the difference between NRC that you were talking about, if you're a Myanmar national, they give you national registration card, which is a pink color. But if they don't want to give you, sometimes they give an excuse about, your grandparents don't have enough document or your parents don't have the right document. So even like Nepali people, some of them I know have FRC, which is what you are saying. It's foreign register card. They don't recognize you as a Myanmar citizen. They give you that card or that book as being a foreigner. It's almost like a passport, that you're living
Yeah.
here. And to my surprise, when I started learning about Rohingya issues, genocide, I started like caring about what's happening to Nepali people, Noor. And I went and Google and started looking for which category is Nepali people put. And it turns out, Noor, can we get a sarcastic clap? Is that Nepali people are also under unregistered citizen. Yeah, yeah. Who would have thought? I think
Wow.
Nepali people are sitting and sleeping and doing their jobs without this knowledge because they do hold NRC, most of the Nepali that I know, but in our national
Mhm.
card it says Nepal, Buddha. And most Nepali I know are Hindu. Nepal is a country, not an ethnic group. We are
Yeah.
Nepali, not Nepal, darling. I think
Yeah.
this has come to my surprise. In addition to what I was saying about being a Nepali and being in the middle, I want you to take this moment to tell me that what does it mean to be a Rohingya person, especially now that you are resettling in United States, Wisconsin, and what does it mean to be a Rohingya there, and what does it mean to be Rohingya from Myanmar to you and to the collective that you are engaging with?
I would say for me, when I first think of Rohingya, I always think of just resilience and how resilient my people have been, and how resilient you have to be to go through a genocide, to go through traumatic events and still stand, to stand still, to still be able to like function and do your daily activities, especially like, if you're resettled here. You have to be, resilient to, come from there and then establish yourself here, right, in a country and a culture that you're not familiar with. You don't speak their language, and just, integrating into the society, because, at the end of the day, like, you are different. You're like an outsider, but, it's like, it takes a lot to integrate yourselves. And when I think of that, I think of my parents especially, and how they had to start, from the bottom here. As I told you, my mom, she studied law when she was in Burma, and, to come here and, um, you know, having left her family, having left, like her degree, She came here, and she had to push herself to learn English, um, and she became an interpreter. And it was something that was very, very needed for the community and for our growth. Um, but it just tells me that the amount of sacrifice that you have to do for your children and just to have a better life. So I always think of how resilient my people are, still being advocates for themselves. And I would say, as a Rohingya, like, especially being one part of the 1% that actually gets to carry an identity document, and have like legal documents. Um, I, as when you're born a Rohingya, you're already born an advocate. You're already going to be put in situations where you have to stand up and fight for yourself and really voice your opinion and what you need, because in a lot of way there will be barriers, and like what happened with the Rohingya genocide, you might get like just swept aside, and then you have to be the one to bring up the issues again, to bring what you want to light, and fight for what you want and fight for what you need. um so I would say, like, being in the position that I am now, I'm very, very privileged and very lucky to be able to live freely, and even move freely and live in this kind of open society. I mean, yeah, America does have its problems with discrimination and racism and Islamophobia, but I would say, compared to what's happening with my people in the Southeast Asian region, it's nothing compared to that. Um, so I can't just sit here and do nothing, right? I have a voice. I have, I have like a a privilege that so many of my other people can't do, right? I can take their concerns and I can take it to higher ups or policymakers, or I can actually, like, if they have a concern or if they have something, like, I can actually speak up openly about it. Sure, if I go to Burma right now, maybe like I'll get arrested at the airport, but at least living here, I have that right and that freedom of free speech. So, might as well do something with what I have and work for my people, because, we need everything. We need all hands on deck. Everybody has something that they can contribute, and no contribution is small.
I love that. No contribution is small. And speaking of working for your people, for yourself, we need to start talking about you are part of All Women Collective, Rohingya Maìyafuìnor Collaborative Network, RMCN team. You are the Director of Health, being the dentist that you are, studying medicine. I want you to explain the listener the journey, the beautiful journey 12 of you are taking together, making a significant change on how you tell your story. I find it inspirational, very resilient. All the positive word that can come out of my brain can describe the the team that you guys are working together. What are you ladies up to? What is the day to day life feeling of it? But also when you go around from country to country advocating for this very crucial um, topic or cause, you know, largely we've throughout the history we've only seen Rohingya men on media, but now the history is taking a turn. Women are the image of storytelling. Women are taking in charge. Rohingya women are taking the lead in telling their story, and they are all very young activists. I don't think I can stop praising about this journey that you are on collectively, but I would let you finish my sentence.
Yeah, so Rohingya Maìyafuìnor Collaborative Network, or shortly known as RMCN, was actually born 2 years ago in Indonesia, in Aceh, after Yasmin had gathered some of the Rohingya women, and she asked me, she was like, "Oh, would you be interested in going on a mission trip?" And mind you, this was my like first exposure to doing like advocacy outside of the country, because usually I would do like local, like advocacy locally within my community. um and so at first I was hesitant because I didn't know what to expect, but then I took the chance. I was like, I think this is a chance for me to actually go and see with my own eyes what's going on, because I would hear stories, and I've seen the life of how it is like after resettlement, right? But I was very young when I came to this country, so I didn't actually experience, or I don't remember the journey, right? I was very young. So I told Yasmin, yeah, I'd like to join. I want to be a part, go and see. So after we went to Indonesia and Aceh, they were, there's the Rohingya refugee camps. My first time I went to the camp, it was just honestly, like, even till this day, it's just so, like, it opened my eyes a lot. And I remember feeling so emotional. And I remember that I immediately missed my family back home. I wanted, I missed home a lot. I wanted to come home because of the amount of stories I heard about, children, not being separated from their parents, or, husbands separated from their wives and vice versa. And, just, you know, families being separated, people don't know where other people are. So that's what I thought of. I immediately missed home, and I was like, man, like, I'm so lucky that I can be with my family, you know? And then, after just interacting with my people and listening to the stories of the women and the men, um, and that whole experience after our trip, me and my other friend, whose name is also Nurhayati, we were like, okay, like, we want to do more of this. So we went to Yasmin and Nur, and we were like, hey, like, we want to do this long term, because we can't just sit here and not do anything. We actually want to, like, we want to see what we can do and help these people, even if it's like the littlest thing, as just giving them, providing them with the most basic needs, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we all, as human beings, deserve to live our life with dignity, no matter what situation we're put in, right? So then, yeah, after that, we were like, okay, let's officially organize ourselves. So then, that's how RMCN was born. And till this day, we've our mission as women-led, refugee-led, and Rohingya-led collective feminist group is to uplift the Rohingya community, and also work towards social cohesion, right? And that goes more about, like, reintegration back into Burmese society, and also social cohesion between host groups and refugee groups, right? Because the Rohingya people were refugees in so many countries, unfortunately. But also narrative change, because Rohingya people have been painted in a certain way by media. There's a lot of propaganda, but to create a long-lasting, sustainable change, we actually have to change the narrative of Rohingya, right? From people, yes, we are going through a genocide. Yes, our people are, being, um, we're going through some very, very, like, a lot of trauma. But also, what can happen to Rohingya people if they're given resources and opportunities to flourish, right? So, to change the narrative that instead of Rohingya people being, just we just want resources, Rohingya people being incapable of, sustaining themselves. We want to, change it to that Rohingya people, when we're given resources, we can come back and contribute to society. We can come back and contribute to your economy, and that once we're given just that little boost, we have that autonomy and that independence, especially as women. So we've apart from the advocacy part, we also try to spread the Rohingya culture and, just let people know that we have our own culture, we have our own food that we
Yes.
like, like Nurifida. Um, we also like Mohinga. We like Lepeto. We like everything, right? So just showcasing our culture, our history that's been erased. We do cultural nights. We also, what's it called? A lot of our work starts from actually just going to our people and listening to what they have to what they have to say, because we can go out, we can go to governments and things like that, but at the end of the day, if we're not actually voicing their
Mm.
concerns, what impact are we making, right? What are the changes that we're making if we're not listening to what they want and what they need? Because our wants and needs are different from their wants and needs, right? And we're trying to, at the end of the day, help them. So we always go back and listen to the community. Um, we've also had to step in as first responders these days, in terms of humanitarian aid, because of the funding cut. So over the past 2 years, we've actually raised over $300,000. And this was fundraised by ourselves, as a small organization, reaching out to our families, our networks, our friends, having fundraisers, and every single dollar went to the Rohingya refugees in the camps. Um, just for aid after the fires, or rebuilding shelter. Recently we were able to give out food during Ramadan, and also host Eid, the past Eid. So they were able to actually slaughter animal and eat meat in the refugee camp. So just things like that. And another part of RMCN is actually that sisterhood between Rohingya women, because as you mentioned, like in this field, it's very dominated by men, and now women are becoming the faces of storytelling. So it's also creating that long-lasting sisterhood, that bond, and creating a network of capable, badass, like the professional women. Because at the end of the day, like we're the ones that are gonna get the job done. Um, and we need more women out here. So we want to collect all the Rohingya women that we have, and make that change together, work together to make that change. And I'd say, like, based on what we do in our missions and goals, we're the first of its kind. There are other like women networks and things like that, but I'd say RMCN is special because yes, we have directorial roles and things like that, but no one is above the other. We're all equal. We all listen to each other's voices. We all treat each other with the same amount of respect. And if there's something that you want to do, hey, put it out, do it. You don't need to get approval. You don't, just go do it, as long as it's helping our community. Um, and yeah, and also just train and mentor younger Rohingya women and girls to to teach them how to be advocates and leaders in their own communities. growing up, and like give them those tools for how to be leaders in the community. So that we're working with a lot of angles here. There's so many things that we want to do, but slowly, we're doing it step by step, because nothing's gonna happen in one day, right? It takes
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
takes time. True that. And I also love the fact that, group of Rohingya women are just existing on social media. I think that's the most, it may look not so important for some group of people, but I find your existing collectively alone is the volume of the activism, is the foundational um, revolution of this activist work. Because I think this is the first time I've ever seen that much of a Rohingya, like that group of Rohingya women in a group. And not only they are just in a group, they are existing loudly, and they are everywhere in a sense, and I think that's so powerful. Imagine there's a young Rohingya girl feeling hopeless at a refugee camp, and then they saw IMCN, and they would feel so hopeful, and I feel like you are seeding hope for a lot of young girls to know that they matter, they exist. And I think that's, and I love that. I just want to repeat that again. And as you were talking about activism work, you said that there are so many things that one could really do, like, of course we want to be able to solve all the problems that our people are going through, but this problem has existed and carefully curated by the enemy for so long throughout the history. It's not something we can do it completely vanish it over a night or over a few years. It takes a lot of time, investment, strategy to slowly eradicate this violence against our people, our um, group. I also see this is this sort of like a hierarchy of problems when people think this group deserve empathy and this group do not, and there's sort of like a layers in violence that we put when it comes to solving problems as well. So can you walk us through, the listener especially who don't know, what kind of comments, maybe you can just generally explain the challenge of being a group of women and fighting not only the dictators but also the patriarchal um, layers to that violence. And I think women existing collectively like that is already scary for a lot of men. They are threatened by it. So maybe walk us through that challenges that you go through, but also do you notice that working in activism, people have this hierarchical values towards the problem that one is trying to solve, and try to put certain thing aside because they think that, this group can wait, sort of attitude,
I would definitely, I would say that it is there are a lot of challenges. As you mentioned, we do have a big social media presence, and we are not afraid of calling people out or calling governments out. Usually you'll see us say the things that people have been wanting to say for ages but never had the courage to actually say them. Because for us, because it's like, like honestly, like we need to call people out, and it's like, what are we gonna lose, right? What else do we have to lose, right? So might as well just use our voice for something, that it needs to be said. And of course, yes, it'll come with some backlash, but our we have that blind faith that eventually it's gonna, people are gonna come around. that, the situation will be turned. And even, the comments that we get, um, I mean, I personally feel like, um, there's a lot of layers to this, as you mentioned. One thing is that, like, like, as locals, you see that, oh, there's this group of people, they're coming to our village, to our city, and they're just, taking our jobs, or they're doing this, they're doing that. They see that part, but they don't really think about, oh, what's the push factor? What's pushing them to um actually come here? Why are they actually coming here? They're not coming there for fun. They're coming there because they have no choice. So, like, even especially nowadays, we would see, comments like, "Oh, go back to Myanmar. Go. Don't come here. Rohingya people don't come here. We don't accept Rohingya people. You guys should go back to your country." But there's an argument of, where is our country? Like, if we go back to Burma, it's not like the Burmese people are gonna accept us. Our own country aren't accepting us. So it's like, we don't really have an option, that the push factor isn't really a thing. And I think it comes from people not educating themselves about it enough, and people just choosing to be ignorant, even if they do have the chance to actually read in, right? And being critical of your sources in the first place. And then there's also that angle of racism, xenophobia, and discrimination and colorism, especially. We get a lot of comments that are saying, "Oh, Rohingya people are black. You guys are dirty." We had a comment that literally said, "Oh, we don't support Rohingya people because they're black, and we support Palestine because they're white." There's that dynamic of white versus black, and, like, really, you're really equating this to color. Like, come on, guys, this is the 21st century. We're beyond that. You're talking about the livelihood of people. You're talking about their actual um safety, their actual life, and you're equating it to color. Like, come on. And you know I would say that I heard this from, like, one of our, like, wh- when we did our advocacy. Like, I just heard it from somewhere where it's, like, people, a lot of the hate again towards Rohingya people comes because, there's a lot of Rohingya refugees there, and there's a lot of support towards Palestine because there's not a lot of Palestinians there, right? There's not that influx. It's like, oh, they don't have to deal with this, so it's like, it's easy for them to support it because they don't have to deal with them. um so we got that comment, and it just really makes you think, like, usually, when you meet people, especially people who are going through a genocide, it really grounds you more, right? It really gives you that real life connection of, oh, like, wow, like, their people are going through this.
Yeah,
But then, even while seeing the condition that they're in, it's like you're still choosing to hate on this group of people, right? um so it is a challenge. And the RMCN members, we fight people in our comments, and that might be why we get a lot of backlash. But, like, sometimes, a lot of the times, these people are just saying nonsense things, and
exactly.
we use it as a chance to educate them,
Mm.
especially if they have any, like, misconception, misunderstandings, and for them to just really think about what they're saying. Like, like, did you actually just say that? Like, do you want to rethink what you just said? You know, like, make them second guess themselves type thing.
Yeah,
Um,
use your brain, darling.
yeah, exactly. So that's a part of our way of countering the hate speech, is responding to these people online, And definitely, to shift that also comes to the narrative shift part, because a lot of this narrative, the negative narratives and propaganda, is coming from online, and it's very similar to what the rhetoric that the military junta used back in 2017. And we're just seeing it manifest in many different forms in, like, more like international contexts. So, yeah.
And, as you said earlier, when they are attacking with stupidity, it's easier to handle it. Like, you can educate them, you can just maybe also subtly bully them back, because you have earned it, because they started it. But when it comes to personal attack, it becomes a little bit more vulnerable, because I know a lot of young listener here who are women may also be waiting for that answer to be prepared.
Yeah, so I would say, as you mentioned, yes, in the midst of these hate comments, there are several men, especially, that do personal attacks, and most recently, um, like Aziza has been getting a lot of those personal attacks, and we even had an incident where um, the Rohingya men from the community, they did AI porn of one of our
Yes, yes, I knew that. Yeah.
members, Farhana, yeah, and it became a whole thing. This was around like last year, like I would say like around December,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they made AI porn of her, and they just some disgusting, nasty things, and it's like, how dare you do this to a woman? How dare you do this to her? Like, this is, this is like, what if somebody did that to your sister? Would you like that? Like, these men have nothing better to do than to just sit down and make AI porn of the porn of this girl. Like, it was so horrendous. And as a team, we had to collect ourselves. And obviously, the first thing that we do is check in with the members, like, hey, are you okay? How can we support you? How can we help you? And be there for each other. And second, we also know people. We have people on hand to help us if we need to deal with those kind of situations. Like, for Farhana, we had to like file a police case and everything. We had to get authorities involved. So it goes to that point where, for personal attacks, we will get authorities involved if needed, because at the end of the day, like, it's about your safety,
Yeah.
and your risk, and not even just you, but also your family members as well. I think that as people, like, more than something happening to us, we can't bear to see anything happening to the people that we love, right?
Mm.
As well. So we do have those like measures in place for if we have those kinds of things. Um, a lot of those attacks, we get it from our own community, honestly. The men
Yeah.
in our own community, like, they have the most to shit talk.
Yeah. Same.
And they're the ones, that they're the ones that are lying around doing nothing, and then they want to go out online and comment, oh, this person claims themselves to be a feminist leader, but she's just going there to enjoy vacation. Or it's like, you guys are using money for these vacations in Europe or Southeast Asia, or like, other parts of the world, and all they see is, or and think, is that we're going to these countries and having fun. And no,
Mm.
like, we're actually trying to get stuff done. We're actually, like, interacting with people. We're trying to, like, we're doing work out here. It's not like we're sitting there, like, sipping, I don't know, like, pina coladas or something or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I also think it's okay to enjoy the walk trip, because I have not enjoyed my own trip for longest time, that I've started to realize that I should have learned to enjoy it, because the journey is part of the joy of becoming, you know. So I think, especially when you're going around collectively making a worthy cause um, noticeable, I think it's important to enjoy yourself. And I think men in general, it's not digestible for them when women are having fun with their life.
They they don't like seeing women having fun, especially Rohingya women. Like
Exactly.
on our social media, we went out for like a team outing, and we were in a car, and we were listening to music and singing, and just what like normal people do. So we posted it saying with a caption saying, "Oh, Rohingya women can have fun too. Like we can find joy, right?" And it blew up online. Like we got so many comments. They were Man, even like the uncles in my community, like we got news that it spread like wildfire in the group chats. Like the WhatsApp group chats.
Oh my
It spread like
God.
wildfire, and we all got calls saying, "Hey, like why did you guys post this video? There's people talking shit about it and all that stuff." And we were like, we literally just posted a video of us having fun. Like, do we not deserve to enjoy our time? Because again, like no one is in work mode all the time. Like we all have time where we just need to debrief and clear our mind, because the things that we deal with are very, very sensitive, and it's loaded. It's
Yeah.
trauma. You're dealing with people's trauma, with your own trauma, right? So you need time to, like a mental break from that. That's what they don't realize. They think that, oh, we're having fun. They think that, they see very negatively of it.
But can I
They don't
just
like
say,
women having fun.
yeah, they don't. But can I also say, recently it has come to my attention that people want people to be perfect victim in order for you to be worthy of their empathy, to be worthy of some sort of humanity. They want you to be helpless, hopeless. They just want you to be this perfect victim picture that they have developed in their brain. I was reading a book. I've been reading this. I'm almost done. It's called Dream Count by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. In one of the story, this woman who is a maid, it was based on that story. So this woman, she filed a court case about this man who sexually assaulted her. And then this man, who was the perpetrator, went to the media, went to the court, and said that she used to steal stuff from my house. So now apparently the whole media is about she is the thief. The case she was filing is nowhere to be found in the news. You know why? Because now, because she is a thief, she does not deserve to be a victim anymore. Because we want women to be perfect victim. They need to be, harmless. They need to be this kind of helpless feature for men to hunt you down, or for men to assault you. You need to be have like you need to have certain kind of characteristic to be a perfect victim. And that have just kind of enlightened some part of my brain to realize it is true, Noor, that we turn to look at people like, for example, Rohingya people. We see this picture on media, the way they are helpless, like, the up angle where the journalist would be like making them small and powerless and hungry, and then we are so used to see Rohingya only as a refugee, helpless refugee with zero identity, that we are not comfortable when Rohingya women are going international spaces, having fun, taking up space, building an identity. We're just not comfortable with that, especially when it comes to being a woman and building that identity. We only love women when their identity are attached with a man, So I've been realizing that we do have this tendency of wanting people to be sort of perfect victim. Don't you think? What do you think about that?
I honestly, I couldn't have said it better than you did because even now I'm thinking about it, and yeah, they do really want that perfect victim. It's like whether it be outside people or people from your community, it's like, oh, if you're showing this side of yourself, it's like, hey, don't show that. What are we gonna look like, you know? Even perfect victims, and then even within our community, they want you to be a perfect leader, if I would say. Like a leader who we got comments where it's like, oh, you guys have to take care of your social media. Don't post nonsense Bekad videos of you guys doing TikToks and things like that. Um, and you know, just we got like a whole lecture where it's like, oh, just post educational things. Post things about your interviews or like talks that you did. And you know, like obviously we're just like what? What do you mean? Like, yes, we're leaders, but also at the end of the day, we're also people too, you know? We're also people too. We also have our own life. We're all balancing multiple things throughout our days, right? And you know, we're working for the community, and they just have, you know, so many things to say about how you should be even as a leader, let alone being a victim, you
Yeah.
know? So it's I definitely agree with you that they really like, especially women, like, you know, women are given that, you know, like that importance if it's anything attached to a man,
Oh,
right?
so true.
It's like with independent women, no. But if there's a man involved, it's like, okay, like then you're given some legitimacy, like what?
Yeah, we love that when a woman is attached with a man. Oh, that's the perfect kind of woman that the society wants, you know. Oh, I am someone's daughter. Perfect. I am someone's sister. Amazing. I am someone's wife.
Like even as a like a feminist group, we get comments asking, "Oh, where are the men in your organization?" Like we when we went to Aceh, I remember like the first question we were asked when we went in for like a meeting, he asked where are the men? It's like, hello, did you not read in the thing that we are a women's group, you know? And
And
yet
why do you need a
we
man to be present to do or
exactly,
just work? Yeah. Uh,
exactly. So it's very, you know, like we're trying to push through those like those traditional gender roles that,
yeah.
you know, we don't need a man to do this work. We don't need a man to help our community. At the end of the day, for all communities, women are the sustainers. When women are the bearers of life, right? We keep the generations going, and you know, them moving. So yeah.
Yeah. Like the more I do like talk with more women and just do this feminist work, I've come to realize that we are actually insanely powerful, that the men group needed to create a system, a mechanism to control our bodies, our minds, to to sustain their power. Isn't this so crazy that these men are threatened by women having fun? How pitiful is it?
Exactly. Exactly. How pitiful is it? Right? It
Right.
just makes you think you're just like, man, like there are so many other things that we should be focusing on. And you
Exactly.
know, at the end of the day, you want to focus on like what we're wearing or what we're, you know, like us having fun. Like, come on, like we're all going through this together. Like, come on, really? You know,
Yeah. And when you talk about the being the leaders part, I think when you become a leader, especially as women, I think they just want you to take away the human part of you. They want you to lead like the man would lead, you know? And that's not how we function. And we are not we are not leading feminist movement the way men lead patriarchal system. We are going to lead the way that our inner self and our authentic self is screaming. We don't have to be tough and ugly and scary to be a leader. We can be soft, beautiful, aesthetic, warm, kind, and be a fucking great change maker. And I think people tend to forget it. So please remember, for us to be a leader, we don't need to be like a man. We can be ourselves and lead the fuck in this world. I am
Yeah,
swearing a lot.
exactly.
I want to ask, as we are talking about just victimhood and the way the world perceive and want to perceive of being a victim in certain way. RMCN did a refugee-led network. Why was it important, community human rights advocacy, to be refugee-led rather than external organization-led? Like, because if you look at a lot of activist work, it's always these organizations coming together and saving the victims or the survivals. It's always the white people coming as the saviors. But RMCN has changed that approach. And why was it important to do that? And the way that you guys have been visiting refugee camps and just visiting refugees in different places, I can see through those videos piercing your heart. It felt like an equal human being, talking, engaging, having fun, trying to connect. So explain that approach to those who might not be familiar with it, but also they might want to also start practicing the similar way, centering the survivors.
Yeah, so definitely, um, we are refugee led, and compared to having like those external organizations, we are partners, definitely. But I think that at the end of the day, we in this world we have to start finding people led solutions, right? Where survivors themselves or people who have gone through those experiences are the ones that are having a place at the table for, making change. Because a lot of the times, the people that are at the table that are making changes or discussing solutions aren't people who have been through the experience before. Like, how do you know what these people need, right? But when it's that inclusion, right, where the people themselves who have gone through the experience, they have better knowledge of what needs to be done, of finding that best solution, right? And I think that when you do this work, and anyone can do this work and try to get clout off of it, but at the end of the day, nothing grounds you more than asking yourself, reflecting on your experiences, and, like having that empathy of like, oh, I've been through that, or I see myself in that person. Just, having just understand, because whoever has gone through it understands the best, right? Of
Exactly.
what's going on. It's just, that groundedness, and rooting yourself into why you're doing this. Like, even as an organization, we have those times where we reflect, like, oh, why are we doing this? Who are we helping? Why do we want to help them? Those are core questions that we ask ourselves, because at the end of the day, like, we're trying to make this work sustainable. We're trying to make these changes sustainable, and create a lifetime change. So, we work on ways to find temporary solutions and long-term solutions, right?
Mhm.
So honestly, it's that, going towards the direction of people-led solutions. People as in people, like genocide survivors, people who have gone through the experience, because nothing nothing creates like a better depth and understanding than that. Sorry,
Mm.
like when it's like I
What you said about centering our work and also letting people who have gone through the experience lead the way is the most effective and efficient way to handle, really. I was thinking as you were sharing that IMCN for the people, by the people, with the people. Ah, the
yeah, yeah.
democracy slogan that was inside my head. So I vote IMCN for running the government in Myanmar. Please come and run the Myanmar government system. It would be so amazing. Think about it. Rohingya women. Oh my God, being the president of Myanmar. It's gonna be the best country to live
That
in.
oh, if that happened, oh my God, there would be some people that would be shaking one day.
Oh my God, it would be so good to see that happening. I'm actually excited in a way that's realistic. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
We should collaborate and make it happen. Rohingya
Yeah,
women's
yeah, we
president.
should.
Mm-mm. Okay, I I want to ask more personal question. Which language do you most feel comfortable to be outrageous?
Like in terms of the ones I'm like speak regularly or the ones that I just know one, two
Like when
words
you
of.
are angry with your sister, let's say, what language do you
Oh,
use to educate her? Educate.
I use, I would say a mix of English and Burmese.
Uh,
So I have an interesting story about that. So growing up, my first language was actually Rohingya. So when my parents spoke to me when I was younger, they would speak to me in Rohingya. And once I went to school, I started learning English and you know, my parents learned, we're also learning English too, but we still spoke mainly Rohingya. And then in 2007 and 2008, around that time, there was an influx of refugees, like Burmese refugees from the like Thai Myanmar border, like hello, Mae Sao do, Om Pien
uh-huh.
do,
Yes.
from there. There's an influx of refugees, and I actually picked up Burmese from them.
Oh.
So that's why there's some gaps in my Burmese. Like I know the everyday language, and I'm always
Mm,
learning more. Even hearing you speak, how to, and even speaking with people back home, like how to fine tune like the accent or words that I pick up. But I originally learned from those people, and now you know they're like the girls who are the same age as me, they're like my closest childhood friends now. We've been friends for over 15 years. Yeah, so we've been friends since then. So ever since then, because I was I picked up the Burmese language from them and communicating, I found myself speaking a lot of Burmese more than Rohingya. So then I started to lose a little bit of my Rohingya touch. Like I would understand everything, but actually speaking it would be a little bit awkward because it's like zagalone tobu nane achain lura wo. And to piece it together, even grammar wise, it took some time. But now that we have a large Rohingya community here, and even where I work, I would have to translate a lot,
mm,
um, from English and Rohingya. And even now, like I'm pushing myself to learn more Rohingya, and I would say compared to before, like I can speak it more comfortably now. Even with an
mm,
RMCN, like
uh,
when we talk, it's English and some
Rohingya.
Rohingya too.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah, like
noticed.
I even find myself speaking to some of my friends in Rohingya, and even Yasmin, like I find
Mm,
myself speaking Rohingya to her because now it's becoming more and more natural.
mm,
Um, so that's a little journey of for my languages. Um, so yeah, so that's why I can't read or write Burmese, because I learned it orally. But
mm,
I tried learning Burmese. My like grandpa tried to teach me, But
Mm.
because I went back to Burma in 2014 actually to visit for the
Mm.
first time. So we went
Mm.
to visit them, and they tried to teach me a bit, and now ara
Of course, but what
got
I
it.
find so interesting about your Burmese learning story is that since you learned from migrant workers and people who are the people in those
Mm,
from those group, no? Is it
yeah,
refugee? Even some of them,
refugee.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So because of that reason, I'm thinking as a child's brain, it certainly is not a normal environment to be observing the kind of language that would be spoken. Because when you learn a language in a home, you're talking about love, warmth, food, school, friends, books, fruits, running,
yeah.
playing, that sort of thing. But when you are in a refugee, the conversation is entirely different. How, like, did you notice the effect of that language to you?
I definitely did. Um, you know, as a child, obviously like as you mentioned, the words that I would be saying or the kind of language is simple, like everyday, everyday language. But as I grow up, as I'm finding myself in spaces where I have to even translate in healthcare settings, like what words are appropriate for describing, like women's issues, like, about menstruation or even having, like sexual relations with your husband, like
Yeah.
finding words for that. And, especially when women are describing their trauma, like, even finding words to like like to describe their trauma and understanding the depth of it is something that I'm learning more now compared to when I was a child. And it's a learning curve. Like till this day, I'm learning. And there were a lot of those like adult terms I like to say. Um, adult terms, official terms, the big words that I'm learning from speaking with my aunts from back
Mm,
home, especially when my mom was sick, because before she passed away, she was in the hospital for about 2 months. So
mm,
even communicating with them during that time, the medical terminology, navigating that, it was definitely a struggle. But
mm,
I think that just the exposure and hearing it used by others in different contexts, um, really, really helped a lot in understanding like understanding more and building my own vocabulary. And even now, like talking with my friends,
mm,
I'm able to use some of that language with my friends. And I
mm.
even got a comment from one of my friend's moms. And this is my childhood friend. And she was like, Noor, your Burmese has come a long way. It's gotten so much better over the years. And, this is because I interacted with, people from, um,
Mm.
different types of people, not only my friends, but also adults, communicating with a lot of adults,
I love that you
quote
keep
unquote adults,
emphasizing on adult.
yeah. Um, and especially my aunts, um, really, really helped. And it even started with the language, because I mean the accent, because a lot of Burmese people that I speak to, they have a very Yangon accent. Or
Mm.
if you're from Karen State, they have a accent in
Yeah.
when they speak Burmese, right? So they're like they can't tell where my accent is from, because it's mixed. Ano,
Mm.
at that I'm using when it so it's like they're like, oh, like you have a Yangon accent, but also Malamyan accent, and it's mixed.
Oh.
Because I learned from different people, And especially now, even working within, doing international advocacy, going back to, Thailand and interacting with Burmese people, I'm even learning a lot from them in how they speak and what terminology to use in the advocacy world. I even recently learned how to say coup, but at the moment I forgot it right now. Miwabi. Durísima, mira. Like the
Anatena.
military coup.
Anat.
Anating, yeah, yeah. Anating, yeah. Like
Yeah.
that one I learned recently from like my Burmese colleagues in Southeast
Uh,
Asia. Like Anating, So it's just cool, and I feel so good when I learn like, those new words. It makes me feel more like, oh, like I'm building my vocabulary.
though I cannot particularly relate to that extent, I think I do understand of just like learning English. It was not a necessity to to be a Burmese and to be speaking in English. It's not a necessity, but I actively learned it because I needed it for my professionalism and like
Yeah.
furthering education. But the thing is that I I can understand the journey of your Burmese learning and my English learning in a sense that I learned it in certain way. I didn't
Mm,
need to learn it to be kind, or I didn't need to learn it to be certain gender way. I learned it to be
mm.
professional. Like I
Yeah,
needed it
yeah.
to intellectualize my journey, or like just to work with white people who doesn't speak any other language but English. So my journey
Yeah.
with it is also very emotionally distant, but more of an agenda based kind of way.
Mm,
Like I needed it. I don't want
yeah.
it. I need it. I mean, actually, I want it. It's so confusing. Very. Um,
Yeah.
Perhaps I wanted it and not needed it.
Hmm.
It was a language that I picked up for my professional career.
Yeah, like it's just something that you needed for your development and what you wanted to do, right?
That's why the way I speak English and the way I speak any other languages that I learned from a very
Mm-hmm.
young age, since I was born, are very different. I am
Mm,
very diplomatic. I can easily intellectualize thing in English, but when it
yeah.
comes to Burmese, Shan, Nepali, even Hindi, sometimes the emotions is very intact. Like I
Oh, okay,
cannot
yeah.
speak those languages and be emotionally distant. But with
Yeah.
English, come at me, baby. Like you cannot hurt me in English. I will hurt you
Mm-hmm.
triple. I
Yeah,
am always
yes.
all prepared with English. So, yeah, the
I
emotional
would
distinction
say,
is
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
I would say honestly, like even you bring up a very interesting point because I think just the English language in general, it's like it brings that out of you where you can just say things bluntly, like starting from what's it called, how you address people, address people that are older than you, like calling people by their name. For me, I remember when I first started working, I had some coworkers that were older from me, and they're from Pakistan. So it was really awkward for me to call them by their name. Like
No.
imagine that, it's awkward to call them by their name because in our culture, when we address somebody that's older than us, it's immediately used like we have to use like, respectful terms. Um, or like terms that acknowledge that they're older than us, right? Like if it's like an uncle, it's like ule, or like and it's just like some like a older sister or something that even if you don't know them, you would say like ama,
Ma,
you know, and
uh,
and so I think just it's hard to be emotionally distant in our native
hearted.
language.
True.
There's those like elements that like just you naturally know, right?
Yeah.
It's like also like very centered around age and what's it called, like appropriateness and not being rude. right? Not coming
Mm.
off rude. Like within friends, there are certain things you can say, but for if you're talking to adults, like, like there are certain things you can't speak a certain, it's inappropriate to speak a certain way.
Inappropriate. Oh my God. The word inappropriate is something I heard so much in Burmese that sometimes I'm like, the only significant thing about being a girl in
Mm,
Myanmar and not conforming to the traditional norms, that you heard, like you will hear that word most of your life. Oh, that's inappropriate to sit that way. That's inappropriate to say that
mm,
way. Don't eat
yeah.
that way. Don't go that way. It's like everything is matintobu, mingalip chibi, matintobu,
Mm,
mingalip chibi, maloyabu. It's like, oh my God. There's, this is why I deliberately choose not to use that word in my adult life.
mm, yeah.
Everything is acceptable. Come on.
Yeah, no, you bring up a very good point. Even in our own culture, we're told, oh, this not appropriate, that's not appropriate. And unfortunately, it's they only say it towards the women, the females and the girls. And but yeah, you bring up a very good point though.
You too. As an aspiring dentist, I and also a director of health at IMCN, how do you navigate these two worlds? They are sort of different path in a way, though they are linked. They require different parts of you to be activated. IMCN needs you to be motivated, inspire, and also hopeful. And dentistry require you to be intellectually stimulated, hardworking, and ready to give up some of your sleeping times, that sort of thing. So, how do you navigate these two goal in your life, this two role in your life, and still take care of yourself? Walk us through your day or just general navigation of life with two, three identities.
Yeah, so I would say as a lot apart from my advocacy work, I also do have a life. I'm currently working towards being a dentist. I work in the healthcare industry right now. So I do work with in like a clinical setting. I interact with people, with patients, and I'm part of their care, right? So my goal is to bridge healthcare and advocacy in terms of, educating my community of how to take care of their bodies, especially how to take care of their teeth. These are exactly, these are things that are, still overlooked. And a lot of the thing is like we're not taught these things. We don't know how, right? But and even if we do, it's not in a way where we can understand. There's no like cultural component of it, right? Because take a look at for example, eating kung or betel leaf. It's very popular, and like it's a very traditional cultural thing, right? But
Hmm.
here, especially in the US, like they don't know what that is, you know? So it's also about educating like the greater public about those like intricacies that we have, and um having that cultural competency in healthcare, um and bridging those gaps, and lifting those barriers. Here we often find ourselves like the greatest barrier that we face is in terms of language and understanding. So, finding interpreters, and a lot of the times, at least, especially in the Rohingya community, we struggle to find Rohingya interpreters. Because when we go to like the health facilities, they they bring somebody that's a Rohingya interpreter, but it ends up actually being like in Bengali.
Oh,
Yeah, like there's like they misunderstand, and they end up getting like a Bengali interpreter. And a lot of the times the Rohingya patients are like, oh, I don't even understand what they're saying. Or like that even with an interpretation, things get lost in translation. So as a person who is Rohingya herself, it would be extremely valuable for me to like, remove that obstacle and have that direct communication with them, right? And advocating for my community where needed, like how can we include the Rohingya community in in the healthcare settings and everything. And eventually, like hopefully after I do fulfill being a dentist and everything, opening my own practice, and helping my people become more welcome, and then even like helping my community like in the camps, because that's where it's really needed. So far when we've gone, visited like health facilities, but I haven't really seen anything related to their teeth, like to dentistry. So it's like, oh, it's you know where I live, they do separate like your oral health and your body health. It's like two separate fields, but actually like your whole body works as a system. Everything works together in tandem. And at the end of the day, like if your oral health isn't maintained, it affects the rest of your body because, right? You eat, and that's where there's a saying where it's like, oh, Hippocrates said that all diseases start from the stomach. But at the end of the day, like what's going in your stomach enters the mouth first, you see?
oh
So
my
it's
God.
like there's that. And when I actually read that, that really opened my mind. I was like, wow, like actually, that's so true.
Do you know Emily Nagasaki? She is a sex educator. She said something similar, but a little vulgar, which I really like. It says, don't put anything in your vagina that you wouldn't put it in your mouth. I
Wow.
love that, but continue. I think it has to do with health as well, like you said. It's
Yeah,
interconnected.
of course.
That's a wise advice. Mm.
Yeah, it's everything is everything works together. So just bridging, like the gaps, and removing the barriers, and making life a little bit more livable for my people. And of course, it is a very it does require a lot of hard work and a lot of sleepless nights. But at the end of the day, it's about balance, and really making sure you find that time for yourself, and even having a very good support system. Like having people to talk to when you're stressed, even, having people to talk things out, trusted people. No, you don't want to go to just random person. But I've really tried, taking care of myself and debriefing by, going and exploring new cafes and coffee shops, spending time with people that I love, and, trying new hobbies, um, just trying different things in life, because it, like everything that you do, like it does really open your eye in some way. So it's finding that balance. Sometimes it will be thrown off, but also knowing how to come back from that, right?
What hobby are you up to lately?
So I have a few different hobbies, and they come at different times.
Of
So,
course.
like, during the past winter, I tried skiing for the first time.
Damn, girl, how was it?
Yeah. It was good. Of course, like I went on like the baby hill because it was my first time, and the thing was
Safety
like,
first.
oh, yeah, safety first. And I was like, okay, like I can't have a big fall and I can't afford to like break my limbs. So that
Exactly.
was, like, take it easy. During the winter, I also did like ice skating and things. Now it's summer here, so going out swimming. I also did some indoor rock climbing. Being a bit more active, and some hiking as well. Also, I've recently started doing paint by numbers, where it's like you get like kits, and then it's like a canvas of like something, like it can be like a flower or whatever, and there's different numbers for the parts. So you would paint, like it comes with paint, so you would just paint it according to the number. So let's say uh number two is like red or whatever. So whichever spots on the canvas are number two, you would paint like that part red. The thing is, I can draw like our RMCN logo. I drew that, but I like it's just something that I tried recently, like
Mm.
paint by numbers. I saw a kit and I was like, you know what? Instead of spending time drawing and like erasing 10 million lines because it's not straight or like not like a certain type of curve that I want, you know, just just sometimes I like to do what I want to do, but sometimes I like being told what to do.
I think we all
Um,
do to some extent, yeah. We
yeah,
like to
right, to some
be
extent.
told what to wear, where to go, how to speak. Sometimes, because in Fleabag, have you watched Fleabag? Like there's this, oh, it's a very funny UK based, I think,
Okay, probably
sitcom.
because it's UK based.
It's a dark comedy.
Mm,
And that's like she broke down at some point with a pastor. She said she was a feminist, but then she said, "Sometime I want people to tell me what to wear, what to eat, what to believe, what not to believe, that sort of thing." It's not always like you like being told, but there's this part of you that just feels exhausted from the choices
exactly.
you do on a daily basis. So
It's
it's
it's the
nice.
exhaustion.
Mm,
Definitely, it's like, oh, I already have to think in for so many things, for so many other ways. So then it's just like sometimes just tell me what to do. Like as a woman, I struggle so much on deciding what I want to eat. It's
mm,
like, oh, like what do I want to eat, There's like things available. What do I actually want to eat? I don't know. So that's
mm,
why sometimes when I go with my friends and stuff, I'm like, and they're like, "Oh, what do you want to eat?" I'm like, I don't mind. Please suggest something. Like, please suggest a
mm.
restaurant. Like, I don't want to have to make that decision.
Right.
It just gets tiring and exhausting to some extent. So it's like some part of you just wants to be told, but you know,
I'm gonna come and jump into conclusion saying that
yeah,
psychoanalysis says that women turn to be like that, especially around food. And the reason is because from a really young age, we are told to prioritize other people's preference, from father to uncles to anyone who is older, but most importantly, over our male cousins. We are never favored, so we always learn to never really discover what we enjoy eating. We usually tend to learn to be okay with the things that's been offered to us. Isn't that the saddest thing I heard?
it yeah, it is sad, and I'm just like, oh wow, you psychoanalyze me. But
I'm
no,
s-
like wow, like you brought that up, a very good point. I think
Mhm.
yeah, it's conditioned from a young age.
The reason is that from at like till I was 25 or 27, Nur, I did not know what my favorite color is, what my favorite food is, because I was never trained to think that I could have something favorite for me to make a choice. So all my choices were made by people around me, you know. And
Mm.
also, the other reason is that because we were poor, we didn't have much resources. So whatever was given to class also speaks the volume of someone's identity to some extent, you know, and to be okay with whatever was offered to me with the resources that we had. So I've been reflecting a lot on that. So I'm just putting that inside your brain as well.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna think about it too. Like, wow, like now I'm starting to think like, oh, what are other things that are like just like, oh, it's like been so conditioned for other people to choose that like the thing is you're so it's so true. Like you struggle sometimes you don't even know what your favorite like item is or like, it's so hard to choose.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Now I'm thinking, I don't know if my favorite color is pink or gold.
Exactly, right, right. It's daunting as well to realize so much of what you have internalized within you comes a lot from the society you were brought up. So it's very possible that we have yet to discover much of ourselves through this unlearning process of being a feminist, I think. No?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree.
I want to know, how do you want to be remembered? How do you want Rohingya people to be remembered today, in the future, you know, for coming many, many, many years? Maybe we can start off by, how do you want people to remember Rohingya people, to how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah. So, when for that question, um, I always think about my mom. So, I want to be remembered like how she is remembered as somebody who was very kind, very caring, selfless, um, really, really empathized with people and really did her best to help out others because she herself struggled so much trying to, like work for her children, establish herself here newly in this country. Um, so at the end, people have nothing but good things to say about her. So that's kind of how I want to be remembered, like even as a Rohingya people that we are not in like we don't want to be remembered as these helpless people, but more so that we are a people that do deserve to live a dignified life, that that we have a whole history, we have a whole culture, and that we don't no one in this world deserves to be forgotten. And in our culture, we have this proverb of the taro leaf. Um, I guess in Burmese it would be like taro gacharo bale pain like pain. That's the literal translation of taro leaf. So there's this proverb that Rohingya people are like the water that falls off of the taro leaf. Because when you put water on the taro leaf, like the water falls off, right? Because it doesn't stick to the leaf. So Rohingya people are like that, where like once it's fallen off, we're forgotten. But it's also a symbol of hope for us, for us to not forget ourselves, and that wherever Rohingya people are, that we will be always together, and wherever we are, we do stick together. So I guess in that way, um, we'd like to be remembered, as like in that way where like we're not going to be forgotten, and that we're always going to be together, and that we're very hopeful that one day we will be able to go back to our homeland, to our country, and rebuild our nation, and pass our history and culture down to our future children, yes, the history and the culture is passed on mostly orally now, but hopefully in the future it still goes on and it's kept alive.
Essentially, I think we all want to be remembered as people with hope, dreams, fears, scars, beauty, and kindness. I love how you put that. And I wanted you to actually say something for our listener. Nazin dure Myanmar Zagar ne bono. တခုခုပြောပေးစီချင်တယ်။ဘာသိစေချင်လဲပေါ့။ရင်ကနဲ့ပတ်သက်တယ်လည်းရတယ်။နူရီရဲ့အကြောင်းနဲ့ပတ်သက်တာလည်းရတယ်ပေါ့။နားဆင်သူတွေကိုတခုခုပြောပေးစေချင်ပါတယ်မြန်မာလို။
ဟုတ်ပြောlistener တွေကိုပြောပေးစီချင်တာကဘယ်လိုလဲဆိုတော့အားလုံးကိုကျေးဇူးတင်တာပေါ့နော်ဒီ podcast ကိုနားထောင်ပေးတဲ့အတွက်နောက်ဒီ Rohingya အကြောင်းနဲ့ပို့ပြီးတော့အဲ့လိုlike knowledge ဟိုရဖို့ပေါ့နော်ပြီးတော့တချို့ပြောခဲ့တာတွေတော့နည်းနည်း difficult ဖြစ်တာပေါ့နော်နည်းနည်းတော့sensitive topic ဖြစ်တဲ့တချို့တွေအတွက်ဒါပေမဲ့နားထောင်ပေးလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့လိုနည်းနည်းopen mind နဲ့နားထောင်ပေးပါပေါ့သိတယ်မလား and တခုမှတခုဒီလိုမေးတာတွေပါတယ်မေးစရာတွေပါတယ်ရှိတယ်ဆိုရင် RMCN Instagram ရှိတယ် RMCN Instagram မှာကြိုက်တဲ့ချိန်DM message ပေးလို့ရတယ်ပြီးလို့ရှိရင်RMCN Instagram go like and follow လုပ်ပေးကြပါ Instagram handle is Rohingya Women Collaborative နောက်မဟုတ်လို့ရှိရင် RMCN နှိပ်ထည့်လိုက် Instagram မှာပေါ့နော်သူကပေါ်လာမှာပဲအဲ့ဒါ follow လုပ်ပေးကြမှာအဲ့ဒါRohingya news နဲ့ဗာနဲ့ update ဖြစ်မှာပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒါအားလုံးကျေးဇူးတင်တယ်
being Instagram page will be putting it on our description as well, so it's easier for people to just go and say thank you so much for giving the time. And I kept the last I kept the best part on the last section. In honor of speaking with you today, I am wearing this bracelets given by Yasmin. I stand with Rohingya. We stand with Rohingya. So I just want.
Oh my god!
I've been
I'm gonna
wearing
tell
it
her.
out.
I have to tell her.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time, energy. It's been midnight already at your place. You have been scrapping everything out of your brain as much as possible to be the most beautiful and intelligent speaker. So I appreciate so much for your time and expertise on this topic.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And you are amazing. You are so smart. And I learned so many things from you today. And like, definitely it'll be a conversation that I'll be thinking about because there are so many things that you brought up that I haven't really thought about, that deeply before. And I'm just like, wow, like you're a badass woman. People have to be scared of you. People should be scared. People should be scared for what's coming their way.
If you like this episode of G-Taw Zagar Wyne, please don't forget to like, comment, and share so that we can create content that you can learn, enjoy, and feel inspired to. Have a nice day. Thank you for listening.